Okay, the planning board is coming back. We're just waiting for remaining members and Laurie Connors. So just give it a couple minutes. And Amy, I see you're here, so we'll see if there's others from your team. Are there others from your team joining here tonight?
Yes, Jim Jackson is also on the call.
Oh, yep, Jim out in oops,
And Chief Parenti, I believe, maybe on the call as well.
great. Oh, Laurie came in as a, let's see. There we go. Oops, Laurie, where are you? Oops, there she is. Okay. All right, great. Good evening, everyone. So we've already read the announcements for tonight. Who are we missing? Where's Bill? Oh, there's Bill, Anthony. Okay, we got our board. We have Lori. We have Amy, the chief, Jim Jackson. Anyone? Is it just you three this evening?
I think that's it this
Okay,
evening.
great. So let's see. Why don't we, hold on, I have to switch over documents here. Okay, so next on our agenda tonight, we have the continued public hearing for consideration of the application for site plan approval submitted by the town of Northborough for the construction of a new 30,000 square foot plus or minus fire station and associated improvements at the property located at 61 and 65 West Main Street, map 63, parcels 9 and 10 Monroe Street, map 63, parcel 7 in the downtown business district and groundwater protection overlay district area 3. So with that, welcome. I know when we last met, we had a couple of revisions happening that we talked about. Since then, we also received a letter from Fred. So why don't we, would you like to get started with, would you like to talk through some of the revisions since we last met?
Yeah, sure. I can share my screen and some of the drawings. Is my screen coming up?
Yes, yep.
Okay, so one of the comments was we were asked to realign the west driveway to align with the Dunkin' Donuts driveway across the street. So we have done that, and it's shown on the plan that the Dunkin' Donuts driveway is right across the street here. So the center line of the driveway is aligned, and I think Fred mentioned that. So with that, we're asking we're asking for still asking for the variance on the traffic study. You know, Fred seemed to think that with those revisions, we didn't feel it was necessary to do a traffic study, but you know, so we're still asking for that variance. The other revision was on the roof plan, and Amy can kind of go through this.
Yes, so we spoke to two different manufacturers of snow retention devices about the project. We provided them with a roof plan, with snow loads, with information on the material, the product that we were specifying for the roof standing seam, and gave them information on the project location so they could understand the annual snowfall and other project conditions. Both of the manufacturers ran calculations based on the project specifics that we gave them. The systems are engineered in accordance with those specifics. It's not like a one size fits all kind of things. They're very specific about you know, knowing the project specifics in order to recommend a system. So they both came back with a recommendation of a single roof rail or snow rail to go along the perimeter of the roofs, right at the eaves. The snow rails are they're continuous and they work sort of close to the roof. What happens is the snow compacts with the weight of the snow, and then the forces are pulling the snow right at the plane of the roof itself, so that the rails are holding back the most dense portion of the snowpack that's on the roof. And it allows the snow then to thaw. They felt that one rail was adequate in all locations. Given the concerns that the board expressed previously, we're showing two rails along the north roof slope there. And what that will do is, if there is a really deep snowpack on the roof, so that the uppermost layer of snow sort of buckled over that first uppermost roof snow rail, then the second lower snow rail would catch that snow and retain it back on the roof and provide a little bit additional protection along that that north roof eave close to the entrance there. So we think that provides adequate security and hopefully addresses the concerns that you all had about snow retention on the roof. And then, Jim, we had some changes to the sign as well.
Yeah,
So we talked to the building committee. You know, previously we had requested a variance from the zoning board to put an electronic sign here, and that was denied. And so we came up with some alternative designs for the monumental sign, and the one that was selected is the one that you see here, where we would have a panel that has the fire department seal on it. In the middle of the sign, and we would still have the arching panel above the masonry piers that says Northborough Fire Department and gives the project address.
Yes, I think that covers the changes we've made. And then we also did review, Lori provided a draft order of conditions, and I know at PAR we didn't have any issues with those. I'm not sure if you had any.
We didn't have any issues.
Did we do something with a warning light? Was that?
Yes, I did include that as a condition of approval. Are you talking about the warning signs in advance of the light?
I
That
thought
Bill
we
had
talked about a
suggested?
warning. Yeah, was it a warning? It's a sign, but it has like a red light in it, so I guess it's a little of both.
Well, I had put, my interpretation of Bill's comment was a sign warning of a signal ahead, so that's
Okay.
condition N.
Bill, does that capture your what you had intended?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Other board comments or questions? Amy, you have a question?
Yeah, if you could go back to the roof overhang, the roof guards. On the drawing, it says roof below in the middle. So where that overhang is, that's over the door. Is there actually a roof below there, or does it go straight down underneath the roof? Like, because I thought that
That's
Sorry.
actually not, sorry, that's not where the door is. That is the wall steps back there. So the pitched roof that you see where the snow guard is set back. And then there's a flat roof where it says roof below. That's actually a flat roof there. So if the snow were to slide there, it would be captured by the flat roof below. The main entrance is, I don't know, Jim, if you can point, nope, that's the hose tower over right. Yeah, a little bit to right there is where the entrance is.
that's actually disappointing, because I thought maybe a roof below would stop it if it got by, because that's what they did up to the, there's a Westboro Wildlife, and they have big steel roofs too, and they have the snow guards, but right over the entrance they have a roof below, so there is a roof there.
Yeah.
So
well,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you remember, what we did here is we recessed the entrance door to provide some protection for somebody coming in. And I think that plus the snow guards, provides quite a bit of protection for someone.
Yeah. Another question is, what years? You said you gave them an analysis of previous years. I know the past 2 or 3 years it hasn't even really snowed, but then like maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago or 10 years ago, there was a ton of snow. So if they did an analysis on just last year or the year before, the load would have been low.
We didn't give them specific years. They look at, a period of time. I don't know the range of time that they look at, but they look at the project location and what the average snowfall is in that project location. Again, it doesn't really matter the depth of the snow so much, because what happens is the weight of the snow weighs down on the snow blanket, and basically it's the densest closest to the roof. And so that's what the fence is holding back, is the densest area of the snow, which the forces are pulling that dense pack of snow down the roof. So, having added height doesn't help you. You want to retain the densest portion where the forces are acting.
Just know, like the town hall in the center of town has asphalt shingles and they have the snow guards. And the snow guards don't work. When we had deep snows, they have to put out scaffolding because it still falls off.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want a repeat of that.
Yeah, and I don't know those projects. I don't know how those have been engineered. All I can do is engineer, to this project. And as I say, the second rail really should provide you with additional protection.
Okay. I don't know if anyone else has a question about the snow guards.
Other questions from the board?
I was
I
just
just had a
curious,
question. Oops, sorry.
the current roof at the fire station, do you know what the pitch is for that? And if you guys have had trouble with packed up snow on that, do you have to clear it as we did a couple of years ago?
The
And-
current roof's a flat roof where we are now.
Okay. And would this make it difficult if you had to clear it? Is there no option to clear it with the snow guards?
No, I don't believe that's if for some reason it had built up and we would have to clear it. We have the efficient equipment and apparatus to do so.
Okay.
So sorry, I neglected, Millie, you just speaking now reminded me that we need to determine if you're recusing yourself or not from the hearing. Because if you are, I don't know if you can participate in the question, and your question's awesome, so it wasn't about that. I just, when you talked, I thought, oh shoot, we need to settle this one. Lori, what do we need to do for this one?
Yeah, because Millie, the public hearing is closed. You can ask questions as a member of the audience during the public hearing,
Mhm.
but during the deliberation, you should recuse yourself.
Okay. All right.
Okay, sorry, Millie, so hold your questions for sure, though.
Yep.
Okay.
I
Have
think
a
the
couple-
public hearing's closed, isn't it? Oh, actually, no,
No.
it's still open. Yeah.
Oh, so still that format, so she can still ask questions at the question period. Okay, great.
I just had a couple more questions if it was okay.
Yes, of course.
Okay, could you go back to the drawing with the entrance and exit? Can you just point out where all three entrances are at Dunkin' Donuts? I'm assuming you're straight across from the one in the middle? Like there
Yeah,
are
we're-
three.
Yeah, so there's one right here. There's also one here, comes into Dunkin' Donuts. And there's another exit right here.
Okay,
Might show,
so
we
the
do
one,
have a plan that shows it a little better.
Yeah, so it looks like it's the middle one.
Yeah, it's definitely the middle one.
I'm just trying to figure out, because the one on the right is entrance only, the one on the far left is exit only, but the one on the middle has people that can go in and out.
Yeah, so this one shows, this plan hasn't been updated, but this shows the three driveways. So this is, I think it's entrance only for the drive-through.
I think the one straight across is in and out.
Okay, this one. Yeah, I believe this one is. And
Okay,
this plan hasn't been updated. This is just.
yep, I just wanted to make sure I was looking at the right one. Also, can you explain how the fire trucks return to the station? They're coming in and say you have a fire and there are three trucks and they have to back in. So do they queue up on Main Street or how do they say you have three trucks coming in? How's this gonna work?
So the odds of three trucks coming back in at the same time is very, very rare. What you may get is a two truck engine in the ladder. excuse me, an ambulance and a squad or something to that effect, but 3 trucks at the same. And the apparatus ramp on the front of the station is large enough that the trucks swing in, start to back up, and the other trucks swing right in next to it. Okay, so there would be an issue.
So if you had 2 or 3, they all pull in at the same time, or they wait and go one at a time?
No, as soon as the first one is pulled in and squared up to the door, the next one pulls. So unless they're stacked up 4 or 5 deep, but there wouldn't be an issue.
Yep, but they go in backwards, right? You pull in, you do
Back
like
right
a
in.
3-point turn?
No,
Huh?
it's not a 3-point turn. The way that this site was designed was the trucks can come in and actually swing and then back up. So they don't have to swing, come in, pull ahead, back up, pull ahead, back up. They just swing out and back straight up. They don't have to swing out onto the street. So if they were heading eastbound, coming past Dunkin' Donuts, they would take a right, swing around, and depending what truck it is, depending what bay it goes in, right? So it really depends on what order they're coming. Swing around and back straight in without having to go out in the street. So to say if they came in, the first one swung around and backed up into the furthest bay, right where the hand is. The next one was coming at a closer bay. They'd swing in right behind them, pull ahead and back up. Is it possible they could end up queuing? Sure.
Yes.
Anything's possible. If that happens, which I worked in a station that was like that. The guys, you just flip on your red lights so people know that you're there. But it doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't happen where we are now. So I wouldn't imagine.
Okay. And then, Lori, do you know if they, and maybe the engineer, do you know if there's a 200-foot sight line? I know it's on the corner where the, public parking is coming out, and you look left, there's a corner. Is there, I'm assuming there's the 200 feet sight line was met?
I know that you had to do a traffic study for Mass DOT.
Mhm.
Can you speak to that, Jim?
Yeah, our traffic engineers have reviewed it and the sight lines are acceptable. I don't know what the exact distance is. It's based on the speeds on the road. It's not really the speed limit, but the average speeds on the road. So it's usually above the speed limit. But they base the sight distance required on them, and we are meeting now. And
Just
Mass
know-
DOT will review that also when they review our curb cut permit.
Yeah. I just didn't know if it was part of our bylaws. I know when we used to have Fred here, he would, we need 200 feet sightline distance. So I didn't know if you meant that. So the Mass DOT is gonna look like at every opening, or they're looking at I know you're doing a traffic study later, but that's mainly for a light? For the
Yeah, no,
flashing
we also
lights?
have a permit for the curb cuts too with the Mass DOT because it's a state road. And we must have the 200 feet because the hillside driveway is about 200 feet from this west entrance.
Yeah, and it's not from the next driveway, but it would be around the curve with the trees.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if there's
Yeah, the
anything
200
blocking.
feet would be to about that driveway though. That's about what that distance would be.
The 200 feet is to the hillside driveway?
Yeah, we're putting in another 160 feet of sidewalk. So it's a little over 200 feet.
Yep. So if you're sitting at the end, I know we don't show the curve here. You could see the cars coming around the corner
Yes.
for 200 feet. Sightline distance.
Yes. Yeah. It would be clear.
From the end of our property to the beginning
From
of the
the
Hillside
driveway.
Terrace driveway is about 175 feet. From the end of our property, not from where the driveway comes out, from the end of our property. Because that's we had to go out and measure that for the sidewalk.
Yeah, from right about here.
Okay. I'm just, as a board member, I'm still not convinced that I wouldn't want a traffic impact analysis. Because we talked about eastbound and westbound traffic, turning movements, and assessment of the driveway alignments. And I don't know, is it okay if I share my screen for a minute?
Sure.
Say, So when I pulled up the drawing and I used a red marker, I looked at the 3 openings to Dunkin' Donuts, and there are like 2 more driveways close by. So there's 5 openings, plus all the openings to the fire station. And if everybody going left and right, I really felt there was a lot going on right here. And in my mind, traffic safety is one of the criteria for the site plan. So I still wanted to see the traffic impact study to ease my mind. I don't know if others do, but I just wanted to show this entrance and exit for both sides are coming and going. And then you have people leaving here and people. There's a lot of activity.
Okay, thoughts from the board on this?
No, I tend to agree with Amy on this one. I thought from the beginning with just the sheer volume coming out of Dunkin' Donuts, and these cars coming at each other, head to head in all directions, it's just gonna be a mess.
So you would like to traffic study?
I prefer that.
Okay, Bill, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think a traffic study will hurt. Granted, I don't know how much traffic is going to be generated by the fire station. That's my concern, right? Because that's really what they're looking at. They're not looking at all the other driveways, right? That if that were the case, then we would need a traffic study from Dunkin' Donuts to be done by them, right? This is going to be just looking at the fire station. And I'm not sure. I don't think that we're going to get the information that we're looking for from that traffic study. That's my concern. So we're going to, have all of this money and all this time go away that isn't going to get us the information that we're looking for.
My question would be, what would change, like to Bill's point, what would actually change that would make a difference if we were to get the study? Like, that would just be my concern, because in my mind, if we could do, like I thought about this, I've been driving through there. Every time I drive through there now, I watch and see what happens and, just really look at the traffic and what people are doing and how that's merging into one lane and people are racing around each other. But that has nothing to do with the driveway for the fire station. So, one thing I thought was that right turn only. I think, Lori, you weren't necessarily a fan of that. But if between certain hours, like that morning Dunkin' Donuts craze, like between the hours of 7 and whatever, right turn only or something like that. And then I'd be more inclined to waive a traffic study, because I'm not sure what a traffic study would yield for changes. I don't know. Thoughts on what we would expect to see from a traffic study that would change the plan?
They would have to look at the traffic going in and out of the public parking lot. Like, it's not just the fire trucks, but now there's a conference room where there are people coming in and there are going to be charging stations with people coming. And so I don't think they just look at the fire trucks. I think they have to look at the traffic from all.
I think we spoke about this earlier, and I think Amy and Jim and everyone were saying that the studies have shown that fire stations do not increase your volume at all. The number's so small, it's not going to increase. Again, it's not going to make a difference. Any additional information? I don't think I agree with Carrie. I think what you were getting at was, what are we going to get from it? I don't think we're going to get anything. I could be wrong, but I don't think we would.
Well, I
Yeah,
think
the
even
study
then,
would look
I
at
think-
the impacts of the fire station itself, not, the other businesses, and just look at the roadway itself and see if the roadway can handle that traffic. It wouldn't do any kind of traffic counts of Dunkin' Donuts, coming and going. Just, would look at the traffic on the roadway itself.
Traffic counts were already done for this whole site for the previous.
Yeah.
Anthony, you had something there?
I was just saying, I think, is the alignment right? Having them face to face instead of offset. I mean, I wouldn't know what would be better, but I think in terms of the fire station, I'm not worried about the traffic coming from the fire station to the fire trucks. I mean, that's the traffic's going to be stopped when that's coming in and out. I'm more concerned about the public parking and where it's positioned.
So you're wondering if the alignment is, so Fred had suggested we do a straight alignment across from each other. Are you wondering if that's the right alignment, or you just
I have no, yeah, I mean, I'm wondering and I have no idea.
Yeah, we changed the alignment because that's what the engineer wanted us to do.
Yeah.
So I think doing a study to change it back, and I don't know, kind of
Oh,
confused.
oh, Laurie, sorry, I thought you got kicked out of the meeting. Yes, Laurie, you have something there?
Yeah, Dave, I wonder if you can speak to, because I think the primary concern is when Dunkin' Donuts is busy, but what is your turnover of staff, um, coming in and out to the visitor parking? Actually, they're probably going to be using the other driveway because they're using the employee parking. So how often are you actually going to have meetings in the conference room during, say, rush hour, which let's assume it's between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m.?
So the answer would be rare if ever. Only people, so the people who are using the training room primarily are the firefighters. Now, if we have an EOC activation, that's a whole other ball game, right? We have all kinds of people coming in and out. I have not seen an EOC activation since I've been here in 9 years, and I would be surprised to see. If we're holding the training class, they don't start till later because people have to come in from their other jobs. They don't get out of work at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I would say during those commute times, very little, if any. No one comes in anymore to pull permits. All the permits are done online. The plans reviews are done online. Very few people actually come into the station anymore for anything.
So, oh, Bill, you have something.
Yeah, I just want to sort of add that I think, I frequent Dunkin' Donuts a lot, and unfortunately, I probably shouldn't drink as much caffeine as I do. But one of the things I always noticed of that lot is it was always an overflow for Dunkin' Donuts. And I see that as continuing. And again, you're not going to get that information from a traffic study, right? If you ever go, I forget which day it is, but when they do the trash collection, right? The trash truck sits in that lot and waits for all the cars to clear so that he can go in and dump that dumpster, right? So he's going to be sitting in that lot. Again, something you won't get from a traffic study looking at it as a public parking lot. So I think, again, I'm not sure that we're really going to get the information that we really are looking for from a traffic study of a public parking lot, because I don't think that's how it's going to be used.
So, Lori, recognizing this is a site plan and not special permit, could there be a condition of like, if X number of accidents occur coming out of that public parking lot, that we need to come back and revisit the need for right turn only, or like the fire chief can come in and report in like 6 months? I know that this is not a time, you can't put a time on the site plan, I don't believe so, but like, could we have the fire chief come back and report on, if there were 20 accidents coming out of the public parking lot, then we know we need to do something. But if there's no change, is that possible, or is that only a special permit?
Well, I think it's important to note that this is under Mass DOT jurisdiction. So Mass DOT is going to issue the curb cut permits. So if they think that there's any problem with the alignment of the driveways, then they're going to force a change. So I don't, as I mentioned before, right turn only signs just means that somebody's pulling a UE illegally in the middle of Route 20. And I'm super concerned about that, especially when you're in the downtown with all of those traffic lights. So I personally would feel that the engineers at Mass DOT would have it covered. That's what they do. And I think if there's a problem, then certainly they will call the town to task. But I think that, I have faith that they would be able to handle this situation.
Okay, so along those lines then, say worst case scenario in the next year there, let's just say ridiculous number, 20 accidents coming out of that. Does Mass DOT then come and evaluate? Like, what is the trigger, or what happens? Do anything, or do we just hope they notice, or?
Can I answer that actually,
Oh,
Carrie?
sure, yeah.
So this is one of the fortunate things of me being the chairman of the Traffic Safety Committee, right? This is one of the things that we actually review. We do get the police data and we do review that on an annual basis. And we can actually make the recommendation to, or the request to MassDOT. We do that we've done it 2 years now for Lincoln Street and Route 20. Not that they've heard us at all, but they have their own very stringent data that they go by, their accident data, and it has to meet that criteria, or else, there's nothing that can be done.
I see.
And Carrie, to answer that from the fire station point of, or fire department, we obviously don't want to cause a problem. We don't. That's why we had gone back and looked. There's been like 6 accidents in 5 years with no personal injury. If that were to go up at all, I would be back. You need to do
Mhm.
I completely agree with you. I don't think that'll be the case, but I think Bill makes a great point as well, that that's something that the traffic safety committee reviews, and that's something the fire department would be very concerned about.
That's a good point. Amy, you have something?
So, intersection at Bartlett Street and Route 20, and that's been flagged as a problem intersection for years, and Mass DOT knows about it, but so nothing happens after the fact. Like, it's been years and nothing's really happened. So I wouldn't base Mass DOT coming in to swoop to save the day, because it's already going to be built, and it probably be flagged as a problem intersection, just like over by Route 9 in Wegmans area. There's a problem intersection there, but it would be years, if ever, if it was fixed.
Yeah, again, MassDOT has their criteria. I know of the exact one that you're talking about as well, Amy, and there are a couple others actually in town. But they stick by their criteria. And so, no matter how many complaints we make, right, it's got to meet their criteria, or else it's just, nothing's going to happen. And so, again, going back to the traffic safety study, right, no matter what we put, doesn't matter if it doesn't meet their criteria, because they're going to do the curb cuts based on their criteria, not what we might tell them.
Right, but I think the one on Bartlett and 20 met their criteria. We learned that when we did the walkthrough for Bartlett Street.
Not for a number of accidents.
I don't know. I just remember it met the criteria, but it was the only one. But either way.
Okay. So this sounds like something we're thinking through. Just so we can figure out if there are any other items we want to discuss, we'll circle back to that. Any other comments or questions from the board?
I had a couple questions.
Sure.
Let me just pull them out. I just had a question about the groundwater systems. I know there's a buoyancy report, and I've been on the board for 10 years. I've never had a buoyancy report. Could you just explain what those water retention systems are doing underneath? Is it the whole parking lot, under the building? The buoyancy report, why is there a buoyancy report?
Yeah, sure. So what we're doing for stormwater detention is we're installing concrete vaults below grade that will store the stormwater and then slowly release it back into the MassDOT system. So it reduces the peak flows coming off. These are like concrete vaults. So if there's no water in the vault and then the groundwater comes up high, these could actually, and any kind of tank could float out of the ground. So we have this supplier provide buoyancy calcs to show that these won't float out of the ground. And there's different ways they can keep that. Sometimes it's just the weight of the structure itself is enough to keep it from being buoyant. Sometimes they have to put a little, form some concrete along it to pick up some more soil weight on the structure. So that it's just a design issue and a construction issue for the vault. And it's the supplier provides that because they're all slightly different.
So is it needed because of the water table? Is that why you need a vault? Like I've never heard of it before.
The vaults, yeah, so the site isn't, a lot of the areas aren't suitable for infiltration of groundwater. So we're using the vaults. We've used them on a lot of projects. We did them on Ashland. We had the Ashland public safety building. We did have to use them there too. They had similar groundwater. So we did have to use the detention vaults there.
Okay. And I noticed, like, I watched the Concom meeting and they had to give 2 waivers. And one was for the waiver of volume of the stormwater runoff from the site. So how close was the count? They didn't ask the question, but I was wondering, how big of a waiver did you need? Like, how big of a volume is not meeting the requirements? Because one of our criteria also has to do with stormwater flow from the site.
Yeah, so by, the mass regulations, we have to reduce the peak flows off the site. But with these underground detention, the amount of water, the volume, which it'll be slowed down. So that will be leaving the site, so the volume will increase somewhat. I'd have to dig through our stormwater report to get that information, but get that. Take a few minutes.
Okay, so it goes under the road and into behind Dunkin' Donuts is like a water area.
Yeah, eventually it ends up behind Dunkin' Donuts. It goes into the Mass DOT system and then.
Yeah. So there were 2 waivers. One was for the volume of the stormwater runoff and the other was minimum pipe velocity. So it said you couldn't meet the velocity of the speed of that it's going to run out.
Yeah, that's just the flows inside the whole system, going from a catch basin to a drain manhole and going to the infiltration systems and the detention. They had a regulation to keep it at 2.5 feet per second for the minimums. And what that does is, keep any sediment from building up in the system. And we were saying that, since we have BMPs in place, deep sumps and things, keep the sediments out, that we didn't feel it was an issue.
Okay, if they do flow out, if they do fill up with sediment, you have to like blow it out with a.
Yeah, it has to be cleaned out. Yep.
Okay, other questions?
I was just waiting for him to get the number.
Yeah, it might take me a minute or two, but I'll get it. You can
Okay.
keep discussing.
All right, thank you.
And then Laurie, any additional comments or questions from you? Okay, well, while we're waiting for that, why don't I see if there are any public comments? This is a public hearing, so I will invite any public comments at this time. So let's see, first we have Mitch Cohen. Hi, Mitch, just your name and address.
There, Mitch Cohen, 12 Whitney Street. I'm a member of the Fire Station Building Committee, but not speaking on behalf of the committee, but also speaking a little bit as follow-up to a discussion we had on the sign for the fire station at our last meeting. The sign that was shown to you was what we approved. It was approved essentially so we could have something before you after a lot of discussion about different sign details, and that of course followed the zoning board denying our request for the LED sign, which I totally respect. My only request to you would be in your approval, if you have the ability to grant us some flexibility for future design tweaks to that sign, we might be able to come up with something a little bit different and or a little bit less expensive. A little bit down the road. We don't need to, from a construction standpoint, we don't need to have the design 100% done right away. We would certainly appreciate a little bit of flexibility on that. I think we would take advantage of that.
Okay,
My only thought.
great. So Lori, if they did have modifications to the sign, is that just there's already a process in place for that, isn't there, where they could do that at some point? Or
Yeah,
Mitch, about pre-build, like if you wanted to tweak it before you put it up.
if it's a minor modification, then typically minor modifications would go before the DPW director, the building inspector, and I.
And I know at town meeting, it just passed and they started before town meeting, but all downtown signs were going in front of design review. So it could be condition, it goes back to design review. Our last design review meeting, we talked about a municipal sign. So there's some consistency with municipal signs. A lot of signs we have now have the two granite posts with some sort of sign in the middle, whether it's wood and engraved. But we're working on a consistent signage for municipal buildings, not necessarily schools. So, I mean, it could be a condition that goes back to design review, or it could even go back to planning board if you didn't want to send it back to design review. As far as the sign,
Is there a trigger? Is it just any modification, or if it's minor, what does that look like for tiers? Is it just regardless of modification? I can't recall from the bylaw.
the signs,
So originally in the last draft of the decision, I had put a condition in there that said that the final design of the freestanding sign is subject to planning board approval.
Oh, okay.
But then they submitted this design, so I took away that condition. But I can add that back, or I can say design review committee approval, whatever you folks feel most comfortable with.
Okay, would board members, would you want that to just go, if there's modification, just go back to design review for that? Makes sense? Anthony, Bill?
So there's no real permitting after that? It's just goes through.
They would be required to get a sign permit, but that's from the building inspector.
so at the last town meeting, the sign bylaw was updated that said that the signs we have 20 days to review it at design review before it goes to the building permit, to the building inspector.
Okay, so it seems like that's baked into our process anyway, or no?
Well, we wouldn't be subject because of when they filed. So
Oh.
they aren't subject to that modification to the zoning bylaw unless you condition it to make them subject to it.
Okay, so do we want to create a condition that just matches our current bylaw and do design review? Thoughts on that?
My only concern is that, we've already been through design review and now we're sending them back. I just feel like we're going in circles here.
Well, I think
Yeah,
it's
well,
to make modifications to what we're seeing now, right?
Well, but I think it's the level of modifications, right? So my concern would be that design review has already approved the sign that they've shown us now, right? And what Amy is saying is now they're looking to change all the municipal signs, and now they're gonna, how far are they gonna have to change it?
It wasn't in front of us, the sign currently, because it had to go to ZBA. It was supposed to come back to us after the ZBA.
Okay, so do we want to tier it, like a minor modification could just go to the
It
The
could come
group.
back to the planning board either way. But I do think if there's gonna be a municipal sign, you'd rather have it match than have it replaced in a year. Like, if there's gonna be a municipal sign type of, I think the select board is gonna approve it. You'd want this sign to match versus install it and have it not match and then replace it in a year. So,
I guess my other question would be, is this something that needs to go in front of town meeting
The sign?
to make that the sign? Yeah, if you're gonna set a definition of municipal sign, is that something that needs to go into our bylaws as a definition of a municipal sign, just like we would with any other sign, like a external, lighted sign?
As long as the freestanding sign complies with the sign bylaw, it's not subject to town meeting approval.
Chief,
it's probably gonna be a policy
Yeah, just
that the select board will approve.
the town sign. select board of the town wants to change the sign, we change the sign. It's not a, you know what I mean? It's not a big deal. It's if they decide, like Amy said, before we get it done, they want a different sign, then we put a different sign in. That's simple, I think.
Okay,
Station review committee, you guys didn't have heartache over the sign. Like you're saying now.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Oh, at your last meeting, you guys discussed the sign too, and there wasn't a lot of heartache over keeping this sign versus the other sign.
There wasn't a lot of heartache, you're right.
Right. Yeah.
okay. So if there's a modification of the sign in the future, or just providing that wiggle room, I guess, if approval is needed, where does it go? If we have three choices, the group Lori suggested, design review or planning board? Amy, you feel what's your design review?
A design review or planning board, either one, it has to come back. So, yeah, either one. I mean, design review is going to get it in the future after this application, everyone coming forward. So,
Bill, your thoughts from you?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, like I said, I feel like we're just going in circles, but if that's the way we've got to do it, then that's, the way we've got to do it.
Anthony?
I'm thinking design review is fine, makes sense.
Okay, that sounds fine. I'm inclined to make it match to what our current process is, and it sounds like they didn't go to design review already, so at least it's not, to your point, Bill, about being a circle, at least it's not like another run around the same track.
it's 20 days. Like if design review can't approve it in 20 days, and it's whatever they choose. It's not meant to hold anyone back.
Okay, Laurie, does that make sense to?
Yep, so I'll add a new condition, X.
Okay, great. So I remember that in the motion. And let's see, we have another comment, Fran Backstrand. If you could just, hi Fran, if you could just say your name and address.
Thank you, Fran Baxter, 76 Cedar Hill Road. All right, so if the only reason why they would change the sign is because the select board and the town decides to have some type of uniform signage for municipal buildings, what would they need to go to design review for? It would have been decided that there is a new sign requirement and they have to go to it. They have to change it. They're saying they're not going to change what was already, well, to Amy's point, it didn't actually go through design review, but it seems like it went through the planning board and everybody said it seemed okay. So they have no intentions of changing it unless they have to adhere to a new sign bylaw put forth by the select board. So what would the design review do or say at that point? Okay, yes, it does meet it. I mean, because there is no further design done. It has to match what the town says. So to the planning board maybe makes sense to go to, but I don't understand. The design review would just make recommendations for the design, but the design is going to be mandated by the changes that the town says.
So Lori, what is your thought on that in terms of how that would work out? If it was just to comply with whatever the select board approves, is that a different circumstance?
Yeah, so the way the zoning bylaw change works is that the design review committee is advisory to the building inspector. So once again, they're just providing recommendations. The building inspector is the sign permitting authority. So if the selectmen say all of the signs have to look like this, I can't imagine that the building inspector is gonna say, or the design review committee is gonna say, no, we insist that it look different. I think everybody's just gonna do what the selectmen say.
Okay, so it sounds like it would be within reason, and in consideration would be that if it's what the selectmen have approved, then that's the way it's gonna look. It's not gonna. Okay. Okay, good point, Fran. Any other comments from the public? Okay, Jim, did you have those numbers?
Yeah, sure. Let me share my screen. So this is our stormwater report that we submitted with the permit. But the
Your
lower,
screen's not up.
oh, it's not coming up.
No, not yet. There you go.
All right, good. So this is the stormwater report that we submitted with the permits, and we have a table, it's unfortunately broken into 2 pages, but the table 2, the peak volume leaving the site, and the first design point is the Mass DOT system on the west side of the site, and then as we go, we have another design point on the east side, the Mass DOT on the east, and then also some of the flows were going to the bank parking lot, the existing conditions. So for the west side, we were actually able to reduce the volume leaving the site, and the bank parking lot, we're not having any flows go there, so we reduced the volume going there. But the Mass DOT east side, these are the numbers. Percent reductions actually negative, so it means we're increasing it. So for the this column is 2-year, 10-year, 25, and 100-year event. So you can see in the 2-year event, we're increasing it 79% the flows. And then in the 10-year, it's 42%, and it goes down to 33, 25-year. The 100-year, we're actually still increasing some, but 25%. That's the volume.
Does that answer your question, Amy?
I guess, what were they looking for? What is the flow rate that?
That's
That
that's the overall volume. The
Mhm.
the rates we were able to reduce on all the storm events. Rates.
Okay, I know they had to give a waiver, so I was just wondering what the difference was.
Yeah,
between
the volume is delayed over time. The peak flow is, the more instantaneous, the flows, leaving the site in, per second. Per second. This is overall cubic feet, but it's delayed over the duration.
Okay, I guess I just don't understand it. Like the number is 79%, but is it supposed to be 100 or what were they looking for?
Oh, no, what they would be looking for. See here, they're looking for a reduction, and they wouldn't be looking for any percent reduction, just as long as it's less. So it could be, 1% reduction would be fine. Yeah, they're looking for less would have met the requirement. And
Okay, so then why did they need a waiver? Why did you need a waiver then?
because we're the volume is increased. It's not reduced. It's increased. Yeah, it's increased by 79%. If it was reduced by any amount, we wouldn't have needed a waiver. It wouldn't have had to be.
Oh, so the volume coming out is increased by 79%. I thought you were saying it was reduced.
No, it's increased.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Other questions? All right, Jim, you don't have to share your screen. You're relieved of your screen sharing duty.
All right.
Okay, great. So let's get back to, it sounds like, are there any other outstanding items if we go back to traffic study? Okay, so traffic study, coming to resolution there. So it sounds like we have some different thoughts on that one. So in terms of, if we were to do a study, what do we think we would gain from the study that would change the plan? So for me, that's what I need to really try to understand, because I currently don't view it as anything that would change our plan necessarily, or that we'd have control or jurisdiction over changing. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Does anyone have any thoughts on what, or Laurie, maybe even you, like what in the times we've gotten traffic studies for this particular site plan, what do you think would possibly be what would we get for benefits of the traffic study?
I personally recommend waiving the traffic study because the major concern is Dunkin' Donuts. And there is going to be minimal amount of traffic using the visitor parking lot during the time when Dunkin' Donuts is its busiest. So I don't really see that there's going to be conflicts I mean, occasionally you may have somebody who's working at the fire station who wants to go to Dunkin' Donuts, but I would suspect that they're going to walk across the street. They're not going to drive across the street. And even if they do drive across the street, they're coming out of the employee parking lot. They're not coming out of the visitor parking lot.
Mhm.
So I just don't see that there is a dangerous situation there.
Okay, and for Amy and Anthony, you both seemed in favor of a traffic study. What do you hope that we would find in the traffic study that makes you feel that way about it?
For me, I feel like there's a traffic like engineer expert that would do an analysis, like we had talked about the eastbound, westbound traffic, turning movements, driveway alignments. And I just feel like in our site plan, we call for a traffic impact study, and we're on Main Street, and it's pretty important. And there's like so many different little intersections and cars, and I just feel like number 3 in our criteria, it says we're improving pedestrian, bicycle, vehicular safety, both from the site and egressing from it. And for me, I would want a traffic expert to tell me that's what we're doing. Like, I'm not a traffic expert. I'm not sure who is a traffic expert here, but for me, I just want to hear that.
Okay, and Anthony, for you, is that a similar?
I think,
or-
yeah, for me, I think the biggest thing for me is just basically the alignment of the road coming out. And what's the best place for it? I mean, it's not going to change dramatically, but to Lori's point, you know, Mass DOT is going to look at the curb cuts. They're going to determine what they feel is best as well. So I'm okay with it. Just going with Mass DOT, taking a look at it.
Laura, you have something there too?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up and say that the approval authority are traffic engineers. So they're the ones that are going to be issuing the street opening permit. So, you know, it's going to be traffic engineers reviewing the work of the traffic engineer.
Like, Lori, when you first came to town, we talked about traffic impact studies, and you said you always did them out in Millbury, and they would give you good information.
But not on a Mass DOT roadway, because the planning board doesn't have jurisdiction over the roadway. It's not the DPW even. So typically, you know, the circumstance in Millbury was that all public roads other than Mass DOT jurisdiction were under the jurisdiction of the DPW, and the DPW director was not a traffic engineer. So, or an engineer in any way. So we wanted that extra level of expertise because there would otherwise be no traffic engineer reviewing this work. But in this circumstance, Mass DOT, the permitting authority is a traffic engineer.
And Bill, any additional thoughts from you? I think you fell on the side of obviously valuing safety, but not necessarily convinced the study would bring the results, or do you feel differently, or what are your thoughts?
No, and I agree with what Lori said, right? You know, there is a traffic engineer looking at this. Granted, it's a MassDOT traffic engineer, not somebody hired by the fire station to do the traffic analysis, but there is a certified traffic engineer doing this analysis. So, you know, it's not like it's just, you know, some you know, asphalt paver in MassDOT coming over and saying, "Yep, looks good right here," right? No, you know, they're gonna do what they do, and you know, I guess it makes it easier when, you know, because again, if we were to do a traffic study, I don't know that we can tell MassDOT, oh, we think the curb cut should be here, right? Or we think this other thing should be happening. They're going to do what they're going to do based on their criteria.
And PAR does have a traffic engineer on our team that's, you know, that has reviewed these curb cuts. You know, they haven't been submitted to MassDOT yet. They'll have the final approval, but PAR does have a traffic engineer, you know, proposing where these curb cut locations are and the signal. And we do have traffic counts to justify the need.
Will the
I mean,
Mass DOT actually look at the sight line? Because right now we don't know about the sight line.
Yeah, we've looked at the sight lines, and we feel the sight lines are adequate, and Mass DOT will definitely review that, but feel they're adequate.
Yeah, I'll just add that, the condition N, the one that I asked for about the signal sign warning, right? If you look at that condition, it states all over it that it's based on MassDOT's conditions and criteria. We can't say that we want a sign there, right? That's up to them, just like the rest of it. So again, I think a traffic study, I do agree that traffic studies are needed when it's a public road that's Northborough maintained. But in this case, we don't have any say. So why bother?
Well, I know there's gonna be a traffic study for the signal, and this public parking lot has nothing to do with the signal. But they're still gonna look at it.
There's going to be a traffic study for the entire site, the curb cuts, everything, right? That's what MassDOT is going to have to do, which is the same one that we would do on any other road.
Yeah, that's correct. MassDOT is going to review the curb cuts and that too, and as well as this.
Would anyone feel better with a right turn only? I know that Lori thinks they're gonna do a UE, but I don't think they would on on right there, a right turn only.
No, because Lori's exactly right. If you do a right turn only, somebody's going to be pulling into WCD garage or any one of those other locations that's a left-hand turn, and turn around and go back the other way.
Yeah, Bill, I think what they're gonna do is they're gonna turn around on the apparatus base. They're gonna come in, the first place they're gonna see the turn around is right in front of all the apparatus.
Right.
Swing there. You're gonna talk about dangerous. That's not where we want to turn it around.
True.
I didn't think about that. Well, actually, I was originally a fan of the right turn only, but I don't know if that's the right answer. Based on the traffic at the time I'd be most concerned about, which is Dunkin' Donuts busy time. And then if people did turn around in that second parking lot, that would be not what we intended. Worse than the U-turn. Oh, just up in the. Okay, so in terms of a traffic study, it sounds like Amy, you are not in favor of waiving.
I'm still trying to think.
You can continue to think. Bill, you're in favor of waiving.
Yes.
Anthony, are you in favor of waiving or not waiving?
I am.
In favor of waiving? I worded that terribly. Okay, I'm also in favor of waiving. So Amy, you can let us do either way. Do you want to share what you think or?
No, I'll just still think till the end because it doesn't matter. You guys have 3-1, so.
Okay. Well, it's good to know your opinion anyway. I think it's important, and I know you did a lot of research on this, and I think it's a concerning area. I just worry about our actual jurisdiction and the ability to make the changes we'd want to make. It just seems like we're kind of stuck with what we've got. Okay, anything else that actually, Anthony, you need to read Exhibit A. There's a meeting that you missed, so we got to get that read into the record before we close the public hearing.
Sure. Want me to do it now or?
Yes, please, sure.
I, Anthony Zaitin, member of the planning board, certify that I examined all evidence received at the April 16th, 2024 session of the planning board relative to the application of the town of Northborough for property located at 61 to 65 West Main Street and 10 Monroe Street, Northborough, Mass. For the site plan approval per section 73050A1A to construct a 30,000 square foot fire station, 53 parking spaces and associated improvements on the subject property located at 6165 West Main Street and 10 Monroe Street. Said evidence includes a video recording of the April 16th, 2024 meeting that I missed.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, is there anything else we need to discuss before entertaining a motion to close the public hearing?
So once we close it, we still have a chance to talk about different things? Like conditions or anything?
Well, if we have any other conditions, we should probably discuss them, I think, before we close the hearing, so that if we close the
If-
hearing, okay.
It's always based on like the facts we've heard so far, right? As long as it's nothing new. Like I didn't know where we ended on the sign. Was that design review or?
Yeah, I
Was
think
that
that was design review. That's condition X. Was that condition X, Lori, the sign?
Yes, so what I wrote is modification to freestanding sign design is subject to design review committee review and building inspector approval. Because they're just advisory.
Now, we have so many days to review the decision. The decision came in late today, and I always like to review the decisions, and I didn't read it when it came in. You sent a final decision later today.
Yeah, but I had sent you the version with the red wording last week, I believe
Yeah, I
on
was on
Friday.
vacation last week, like until yesterday. So and then when it came in today, I said, you know what, I'm just gonna ask if I can read it. I haven't read it.
Okay, well, can we close the hearing and do all the voting, and then we've done this in the past, where then we make edits to our decision if we had like some sort of.
Yeah, you have like 45 days to do a decision. It's either 45 or 90. It's not that I want that many days, I just want to read it.
Okay, so Lori, if there are possible edits to the decision, is it still possible to close the hearing and do the vote and then just to make modification? If there's not significant, like we need new information or, we can't have anybody weigh in. I think we've done it that way before.
Well, of course, then you'd have to discuss the modifications at a planning board meeting.
Right, so the
We've
decision
done in the
would,
past.
yeah,
So the decision would have to, the final decision would have to be approved at a planning board meeting. So you can't approve it now and then modify things and then just, come in and sign it. It would have to wait until the next planning board meeting to be approved.
oh, approved, and we can approve it now and then modify it at the next meeting?
Well, you could approve it, but then you have to vote on the modifications, is my point.
Oh, fine. But the
Yeah.
hearing is closed by then, and we're just really coming back to vote on, or we'll go through any modifications and vote on them for the content of the decision, like how it's written, but not the actual, once it's approved, we'll just take care of that now.
Yeah, so you can go ahead. So right now we have a decision before you.
Mhm.
So if you want to modify any of the conditions after this meeting is closed, then you will have to approve those modifications, the entirety of the planning board. Or at
Yes.
least a majority of the membership would have to approve those modifications.
Correct, and then if the motion is conditions A through X, we wouldn't be able to add conditions.
Right.
So Amy, do you envision adding conditions, or you just want to actually review
I
this?
literally didn't read it because I know I got an email today and it says final, changes to the decision, but it was like right before the meeting.
Okay.
If you want, I can just tell you what the changes are. There
maybe
were
we
so
can pull it up.
minimal
Can we-
changes.
Can we just bring up the whole thing? I haven't read it. Like I find in the past, we made a decision and we voted. We didn't have the decision in advance because nobody knew how we were going to vote. So I feel like we have a pre-written decision that I haven't had time to read. And I just want to see it.
Okay, so, Amy, then would you be comfortable with going through what Lori changed since the last draft that came out, or you just want, you just haven't been, you want to go through it line by line? What, on your, after this
Yeah, I
meeting?
kind of do. Like, even if we pull it up tonight, I just wanna see what is A through X. I have no idea.
Well, you
Okay.
did already review the decision a month ago. So there were only minor tweaks made to the decision in the last month.
Okay. You say. When I saw that come out right before the meeting, I was like, I really don't have time to read it, so I figured it wasn't a big deal.
So it looks like, if you look at the modification, I'm just trying to look through the modifications.
I just want to get a copy of the decision. And one thing I did
So-
want to make sure too,
So
when we
most of-
decide,
Oh, I'm sorry, most of the changes to the decision, like I received additional exhibits. So I showed those in red. Of course, there was the letter from Fred that I received and forwarded to you folks. There was an email from James Jackson. The waivers, the only change I made to that area was I changed the date to June 18th. Findings of facts, the only change I made is I included the ZBA case number for the variances. So there were two findings, 7 and 8. So after there was the discussion on the dimensional variances, I just put ZBA case number 24-01. Then on the decision itself, condition A, this was in a discussion with the fire station team. They had asked me to add, if at all possible, to the sentence that says the land disturbance and stormwater management permit, and if at all possible, state highway access permit shall be included within the bid documents. So the concern was that the state highway access permits wouldn't be received in time. So we
pulled
just
up,
put
I
the,
can't see what you're reading.
you want me to pull it up?
Yeah, because like they're just a lot of, and I really do want to read it.
Lori, I do have one question while looking at this. Why did you cross out the non-emergency driveway access shall be aligned with the driveway across the street? Is that just somewhere else instead now?
No, it's because they modified the plan.
Oh, yes. Okay, gotcha.
I'm gonna have to pull it up on my email because I'm having trouble
Oh, I can
accessing.
share it if you want.
Okay, if you would, because I can't access the server for some reason.
Sure. Okay. So, I was just looking right there and you just answered my question. So that was if at all possible on the,
Yeah, and of course I put unanimously in red because I have no idea how the vote's gonna go.
and then these two items, M and N.
So this was, Amy, you had asked me to add that condition at the last meeting because I didn't include it. It was one of my comments. So prior to construction of the retaining wall, the applicant shall submit the spec sheets showing the selected wall face and color for planning board review and approval. And then, of course, the stamped retaining wall design would be given to us for inclusion on in the file. And then this was Bill's request to include at the last meeting, the sign.
And that was it.
That's it.
What is the date of the plan? I know the last time the plan date had changed.
Yeah, so I updated the exhibits list. So
June
G, H, and L were added.
So it has the plan of the sign. Do we take that off if it's coming back for
Well,
review?
this will indicate that you approve the existing freestanding sign. So it's only if they modify the design, they have to go to design review committee.
Oh, okay. So in my opinion, I don't want to approve the sign because everybody had talked about changing the sign.
all right, and then you mentioned the ZBA case numbers, which are there, and then, I think that covers the edits that were made. And the exhibits were that email from, Jim and an email from Janet. So those.
Oh,
are the
there
two.
is one additional email that I sent you today. There was the back and forth about the sidewalk information, which I forgot to add, so I'll be adding that one. So having to do with the pricing of the design and the length of the sidewalk extension and the pricing of the construction.
Okay, so based on that, Amy, seeing the edits, is that something you still want to read the decision or?
I mean, definitely would, but so do we have to approve that sidewalk extension or it's just gonna be part of the design? I know at our last meeting, we had discussed the sidewalk and it sounds like we got prices back. And it's 35 to 50,000 to build the sidewalk. Oh, yeah,
So I have those, that in condition B. So the design of the sidewalk extension to the easterly driveway, so that would be prior to construction activity. The applicant shall submit a final set of plans with the same revision date for town staff review and approval and incorporation into the bid documents. All comments from all approvals, including the land disturbance permit, shall be addressed in the final set of plans, including the design of the sidewalk. And then there was another condition saying that they have to actually build it. And that one is, let's see.
I really do want to
R.
read it. I mean, we have 45 days to write a decision, so I don't know why. Can't read it.
Well, I thought it had something to do with town meeting and being ready for town meeting. Dave,
I
is
think if
that
we vote,
a
they can
concern?
still go forward, right? Even if we vote, we still just have to do the decision.
Okay, that's what I was asking originally. If we can vote tonight and then the next meeting, we tweak the decision in the public meeting and then finish it there. The only thing is, obviously, our motion is conditions A through W, so we can't add conditions. Right? We're gonna be,
Plus, they're also not gonna be able to do the bid documents because they don't know what the conditions are gonna be. So the project is gonna be stalled for that
well, no,
period.
if we vote tonight though, and then do the decision, like tweaking edits or tweaking the language at the next meeting, but the approval comes tonight, is that possible, assuming we don't add any conditions?
Like I said, it's gonna delay because they're not going to have the conditions to be able to finalize the bid package.
Oh, because if we change, I see what you're saying. I'm thinking the conditions would be, if we make the motions for A through W, those conditions are pretty much set. We're just wordsmithing, but you're thinking could be more than that.
Yeah, I don't know what Amy's thinking, so
Just saying, I just want to read it. What time did you send it out? I'll open it up.
the final version or this
Yeah.
red version? The
Well, the
final
final-
version I sent out this afternoon.
I'm
I'll
just
have-
looking to open it.
So it looks like 318, a clean copy.
Yeah, it's when I sent out the motions.
Okay. I just want to read it really fast.
So So I did change the vote a little bit to, because of course Millie can't vote. So, but of course, that's gonna change anyway, depending upon how you vote.
Well, why don't we take how about a 10-minute break and then that'll give Amy, or Amy, how many, do you want like 10 or 15 minutes? We can take a quick break and come back, or?
Yeah, I just want to read it.
Okay, how about we take, let's see, it's 7, why don't we come back at 7:50? Everyone can have a little bio break, get a snack, and we'll come back at 7:50. Does that sound good?
Thank you.
Okay, great.
I'm back.
Remember, Millie, you have to recuse yourself, so you should turn your video off.
Oh, still. Okay.
Yeah, you can't vote.
Ah.
Okay. Just getting back.
Question. If Lori's back, I can ask her the first one.
Okay, great. All right, Amy, so you had a chance to read the decision. We're gonna come back now. Anything that stuck out to you that needs to be modified or changed?
Yeah. I had a question with Exhibit F. It says a set of plans entitled, should it be titled March 18th, 2024? Should it also say revised March 18th, 2024, revised April and May? Because my last set of plans say May 14th, 2024.
Yeah, but remember that there are a different set of plans that were submitted to the design review committee than the planning board. So these are exhibits are specific to the planning board submission.
So even though the design review went to May 14th, the planning board only got to March.
So the design review committee plans were updated after the planning board plans. So those dates differ. So the planning board did not see the design review committee plans because those changes were already reflected in the prior set of plans that the planning board got.
Guess I don't get it. Because
So
it
there were
seems
three,
like yeah.
there were only 3 sheets that have been modified during the period of time that this application was before the planning board. And those 3 sheets are reflected in, let's see. Of course, now I don't have my red copy.
So
So
this last
those
one,
are G, H, and L.
okay. So G is that. So the 3 that we have with the new site plan with the driveway is one of the sheets.
That's G.
Okay. And then the roof
That's
is
H.
another one. Okay. I just want to make sure. It just seemed like I have so many plans. It said May on mine. And then when I went down to, it had to do, it was right around where the ZBA decision was. I was wondering if it's switched 6 and 7 under findings of fact. Number 6, it says the subject property conforms to the existing dimensional requirements in the downtown business district. But it did once they got the ZBA setback variance. So should it like, no?
Because they're 2 different things. The dimensional requirements of the lot itself, those are in conformance. What they got a variance from was the setback requirement for the building. So those are 2 different issues.
Okay, so the frontage doesn't matter as far as dimensional and density?
So the frontage is compliant.
Yeah, the front setback.
So that's the next, that's the
Right.
next one.
But that's not, even though it's on the dimensional table, it's not considered a dimensional requirement?
So when you're looking at the subject property itself,
Mhm.
so you're looking at the minimum lot size. So you're looking at the property as it currently exists without a building on it.
Mhm.
And it is a conforming property. So that's number 6. Number 7 has to do with the proposed development. So the proposed development did not adhere to the dimensional requirements as far as the maximum setback only.
Okay, I guess it sounds confusing because it says it conforms to dimensional requirements, then you have to get a dimensional variance, so. It just, I guess number 6 isn't the subject property before a building is on it conforms. It doesn't matter, but I was just,
I can
Sounds
just
confusing.
delete number 6 if you prefer. So I was, that had to do with number 5 above. Which talks about the minimum lot size and the frontage, but if it's too confusing, let's just cross it out.
just 6, not 5,
6.
yeah.
Everybody agree to cross that out?
Fine.
Sure.
Okay, so now we have 9 findings of fact.
Okay.
And then it says A through W, but you're adding 2 more?
I thought one more.
So, yeah, I gave
One
you
more.
a motions a document, so it's A through W, and we're adding one more. Having to do with the
That's
sign.
the sign. Okay. And I had just one last thing to say. When we do make our motion, like when we did Algonquin Regional High School, we did the fields. We made it a point to say that, you know, we're approving the application as long as it approves town meeting. Like, I don't even know if that was a condition, but our approval is contingent on town meeting approval. That we're approving the site plan, but it doesn't mean that we're saying, you know, that we're in approval of the application overall. Like, I'm not saying we're for it or against it. Like we said, we weren't for or against the high school fields, but we're saying that we approve the site plan. So for the fire station, we can say we approve the site plan. It doesn't mean we're saying that we approve the fire station, but we're approving the site plan for the fire station. We made some sort of comment for Algonquin. I wanted to do the same thing here, but it's up to everybody else. I can't remember what the exact statement was that we said. Does anyone else remember?
Is it, but not as a condition, just as a statement?
Right. And I didn't know, did we have a statement, a condition that said that the site plan is contingent on town meeting approval? I mean, it's a given. You
Well,
couldn't do
if-
it without town meeting anyways.
Well, you can't because then it won't be funded.
Right.
So
I just
unless
didn't
some
know.
benefactor comes in and
Right.
pays the $50 million or whatever the cost will be.
You know someone, Lori? Just
I wish.
I don't actually recall, but I think we certainly. Well, the site plan is not contingent on, the site plan we approve, this town meeting approves the funding, not the site plan, is what you're saying, Laurie?
Yeah, I mean, town meeting has no jurisdiction over the site plan, so this is your jurisdiction, so you can't pass that jurisdiction along to town meeting.
Okay, so I guess if anybody wanted to make a statement, I guess it's more of just a statement versus a condition.
Right. I think we made a statement before we approved the, Algonquin complex that, you know, approving the site plan didn't mean, you know. That way everybody, I guess, I don't know how to explain it. Should have written it down.
But it still just requires town meeting approval for funding. We're just approving the site plan, but it's so maybe that's the way to say it. We're approving the site plan. It still requires town meeting approval. So let's see.
I am still a little confused about X. So do you want the freestanding sign to go regardless of what the design is? If it's identical to what they submitted, are you saying that they have to go to design review? Or
I thought
only if
only-
it's modified, it has to go to design review?
I thought only modified.
Okay, that's what I thought, but then the language of just before we went on break, I started to get confused that it would automatically have to go there.
Does anyone think otherwise?
No,
There,
I
'cause I
agree. I
think-
think it's just if it's modified.
Okay.
I think Mitch said they weren't done with it yet, yeah. So I would deny the site plan, I mean, the sign right now, for me, because I know we were still talking about it.
Okay. So but that doesn't change the condition. Are you saying the condition's a modification still goes to design review?
I would say that the sign would go to design review.
Okay, so the condition stands, Lori. It sounds like it's just modification. Okay, anything, oh, go ahead.
Because I thought we had said because of the way town meeting changed the signs to go to design review, that's what we were just gonna do.
Yes, so I think that's the way it was written in your condition, correct?
Let's just say
So-
modification.
This project is not subject to that new zoning bylaw change because it was submitted before that zoning bylaw change was adopted. So if you want it to be subject to it, then it would have to be a condition of approval. So if the language is modification to the freestanding sign design is subject to design review committee, then that means that they can go ahead and build the freestanding sign the way it appears in this application. So the brick sign. Now, if the selectmen say, building committee, we want you to change the design so that it is conforming with whatever they have adopted, whatever they adopt in the future, then the new design would go to design review committee, but they're just advisory. So really it's signed off on by the building inspector. But the building inspector is staff to the town, so he's not gonna go against what the select board want.
Okay, so does that still jive with everybody? That makes sense to me. Okay. So either it goes to design review for modification. If there's something with the Board of Selectmen, it still somehow will all sync up. But either way, right now we're looking at the site, the freestanding sign as is. We don't know if there's modifications. We're just saying if there is, that's the process, design review.
I don't think there will be modifications, right? Because that's what was sent forward.
I think what Mitch is getting at when he made his comment was there's still some, and Mitch in particular, but there's still some discussion on the board that who knows or committee that maybe we'd want to change the sign. I don't know. But if we did change that, I think that we should have to go and design review. It just makes just the way that Lori talked about it makes perfect sense. You approve it the way it is now. If we make a modification to it in the committee, then we have to come back in front of design review. Makes perfect sense to me.
Okay, so I think the condition still stands as is. I didn't hear anything different than was written. Okay, anything else on there? No? Okay. Then at this point, if no further discussion, then, let's see, Anthony, you read Exhibit A. So is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
All in favor, I'm sorry, second.
Second.
All in favor, Amy,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Anthony? Oops, I can't hear you there, Anthony.
Aye.
And carries an aye. Okay, so the public hearing has been closed. Is there a motion to waive the application and advertising fees?
So moved.
Moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, Amy,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
carries an aye. Is there a motion to waive zoning bylaw section 709030E6, the requirement for a continuous landscape strip not less than 5 feet wide located between the sidewalk and right-of-way line of the street?
Aye. I mean, so moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, Amy,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
carries an aye. Is there a motion to waive planning board rules and regulations section 7.2C, the requirement for a site plan to required scale of 1 inch equals 40 feet?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
okay.
Yeah.
All in favor, Amy,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
carries an aye. Motion to waive planning board rules and regulations section 7.2C7, the requirement to extend contours at least 50 feet beyond the site boundaries.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, Amy,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
carries an aye. Motion to waive planning board rules and regulations section 7.2D1A, the requirement to submit a detailed traffic impact analysis.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, Amy,
I don't know about it. I heard all the discussion about Mass DOT and everything, so I guess I'll be okay with it. So I guess I'll be an aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
carries an aye. Okay, so next we're at a motion to grant site plan approval. So what I'm gonna do is ask for the motion and then to be seconded, and then we'll go over the criteria as part of the discussion, and then we'll take our vote.
Just have a
So
quick question.
sure.
There's 4 of us. Does it have to be unanimous or is it majority?
No.
It's just majority, right?
Majority vote.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do the motion, a second, that'll allow us to have a discussion, we'll do the criteria, and then we'll vote. So is there a motion to grant site plan approval per section 703-050A1A to allow the construction of a 30,000 square foot fire station parking lot and associated improvements on the subject property located at 61 to 65 West Main Street and 10 Monroe Street, subject to findings of fact 1 through 9 and conditions A through X?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
okay, and so now let's have our discussion. So, looking at the criteria for a site plan, if everyone wants to take a look, or anyone wants to follow along, we are on 703-050, the decision criteria for a site plan. So, for a site plan meets all applicable requirements of bylaw. And then given the location type and extent of land use proposed by the proponent, the design of the building form, building location, egress points, grading, and other elements of the site plan could not be reasonably altered to reduce clearing and grading on the site or reduce volume of cut and fill and so on, as shown in number 1. Do we feel it meets the criteria there?
Yep.
Out of all 9, this is where I have the hardest. This is the one I have the hardest agreeing to out of the 9. I just feel like that there could have been, they talked about a building going like 220 feet or 200 feet wide, or there was another design that could have gone one on top of the other. So it was a smaller footprint, but it took up less of the lot space. So I feel like if they had done 2 scenarios and gone up versus wide, I feel like it really would have made a difference with the extent of stormwater flow, because there's no like room for infiltration and the wall is surrounding the whole project. There's a wall and there's just, you're gonna have to have this snow taken off site. The wall's 30 feet high. I guess for me, I don't know what happens if you don't agree with one of the criteria, but you agree with the others. I feel like this site just I don't know, is a tough site. And I feel like the building being as big as it is and filling the whole footprint, I have a hard time wrapping my head around it. What happens, Lori, if you don't agree with one of the criteria, but you agree with the others?
Well, then you can decide whether you want to approve the project or not, but just remember that this is site plan review. So it's
Mhm.
all about mitigating impacts. The use is a by right use.
Mhm.
So, you know,
Not against the
denial of the
use.
project is going to be difficult to defend.
Yeah, I'm not against the use. I just think it could have been mitigated if it was designed more.
I do remember, I know the
Vertical.
public hearing's closed, but I do recall, I think it was Dave who had mentioned during the public hearing that that was a preliminary design that wasn't privy to feedback from the fire chief as to what the needs were of the department. So the point of that preliminary design was just to see if they could fit a fire station on the site. So it wasn't based on a survey. It wasn't based on a detailed analysis of what the needs were of the fire department. So that, it was just a concept. So
Yeah, I'm
there,
not
it
talking
does
about the
not,
2000.
the prior design does not meet the fire department's needs,
I
is
wasn't
my
talking about
understanding of
that
what was
one,
said.
but at the beginning, there were a couple different designs where it was a design, current design, and there were different massings to choose from. And it wasn't the 2019 one. It was the one where they were choosing different designs. And
I don't
I
believe
just,
that was subject to planning board approval. The planning board didn't see any of that. That was the building committee.
yep.
So I don't know how you would use that information that was not submitted to the planning board as a reason for denying one of these criteria, because it wasn't part of the record. It's not part of the application. And I for one never saw those, other than, just a basic concept of exterior elevations.
Okay.
But
I
probably
guess
the
I have a lot of,
members didn't see it.
okay. I just have concerns with the stormwater flow coming off of that site and a couple other.
Okay, so it sounds like Amy does not think that criteria has been met. Next is reduce the risk of groundwater contamination from on-site wastewater disposal systems or operations on the premises, etc.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Improve pedestrian, bicycle, or vehicular safety, both on the site and egressing from it.
Yep.
I
Any
don't know if
comment?
that's what the traffic impact study would have shown, but they said that Mass DOT will deny it, right? If there is safety problems.
Yeah, it
So I
sounded like
guess it's,
he had the engineers.
Mhm.
Improve access to each structure for fire and other emergency service equipment.
I hope so.
I know, I
Yeah.
hope so. If you don't meet this criteria, this is a very bad, sad plan. Okay. Reduce visual intrusion by controlling the visibility of parking, storage, or other outdoor services, except other outdoor service areas viewed from public ways.
Yep.
Yep.
Achieve greater consistency and compatibility with the surrounding area as to building design or scale or site design.
Yep.
I think because of operational needs, it doesn't meet the scale, but it couldn't because of the type of building it is.
Mhm.
So I think I agree with it that they did what they could with what they had to do. Like it's really big compared to the neighboring sites, but for operational needs, they needed it. So
Mhm. Okay, reduce glare from headlights, reduce light trespass from luminaries onto adjacent lots or street, or light overspill into the night sky.
Yep.
Okay, avoid the removal or disruption of historic, etc. elements.
Yep.
Okay, and reduce obstruction of scenic views from publicly accessible locations.
Yep.
There were no variances on this one, so I don't think that applies. Were there variances? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Well, there
So
were a
that's-
couple of variances that the ZBA granted.
Okay, so anything required has already been granted, so. Okay, so with that, any further deliberation? Amy, you mentioned number one, sounds like otherwise, the board at large feels that it meets the criteria. Is the board ready to vote, or would you like to have any further deliberation on this one? We have a motion and a second, so we'll call the vote.
I'm ready.
Okay. Okay, so the motion has been made and seconded to grant site plan approval for subject to findings of fact 1 through 10 and conditions 1 through 9 and conditions A through X. Amy has requested us submit a statement that this is a site plan approval for the planning board and that it still goes to town meeting for budgeting approval. With that, based on our deliberations, all in favor, Bill?
Aye.
Anthony? Oh, Anthony, you're frozen. It's a cliffhanger.
I,
Okay. Amy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an I because it meets, and Lori said that we didn't get that other design, although I am torn because I do feel like it is maxed out on that site. So, but I don't think as a planning board, I do think as a planning board, it meets all the setbacks and it meets all of our criteria. Except for the fact of, I do think there is a stormwater flow increase. So I don't know, if I say no to that one criteria, it's only 1 out of 9, so. Can I say no to that criteria yet and then just approve it because the majority of the criteria is approved? Or if I say no to that criteria, do I say no?
So the decision would reflect the majority vote. So, the criteria itself is, it just says that the planning board found that it meets the criteria. So if you're the only naysayer, and then there are 3 that vote that it, feel that it does meet the criteria, then the planning board would feel that it met that criteria. That's the majority. And
I
then,
guess
of course, the vote is on the entire thing. So it's this entire motion. So it's not, whether you agree with one specific finding. It's, do you approve it or do you not? This is the
Right.
vote that I will record.
I know, and I'm stuck because I do think with all the floating, the buoyancy and the groundwater levels and the stormwater flow off the site, I am afraid that it's gonna be a problem. Especially, I do think it meets all the other criteria, but I mean, for a site plan in the future, like, could a request from the board, and it's only me, so I'm not pushing the other board members to do it, but could you say that the building has to shrink to give more infiltration so there aren't water problems or wall height problems, or that's not something a site plan can do?
Well, they already are infiltrating the roof runoff. So the issue is that they're sending some of their stormwater flow to the catch basin that's in under Mass DOT jurisdiction. It's in the street. So
Right.
they're not able to infiltrate all of their flow on site.
It's so confusing.
Just an aye or a nay on that one.
So, of course, the public hearing's closed, so we can't ask for the opinion, but I believe what the information on the stormwater flow that they were showing previously. So right now, the existing condition is an undeveloped site. So the 79% increase, I believe, is a 79% increase of the developed site versus the undeveloped site. So it's not increasing the total flow to that catch basin by 79%. It's just from this site. Jim, can you just nod your head if I'm right? Yes.
Right, but I think our decision criteria says reduce clearing, grading on the site, reduce the volume of cut, fill, number of removed trees, length of removed or altered stone walls, area of wetland vegetation, or the extent of stormwater flow increase from the site. But I feel like there's so much water, there's going to be a stormwater flow increase. And what if there is? They have to deal with it and fix it, or it's just going to flood.
So Mass DOT is, has to approve it. So Mass DOT will either approve it or not. So what they can say is they can say, well, you know, the catch basin that we have there is inadequate to be able to handle the flow. So you have to do something else, either increase the size of the catch basin, maybe install another catch basin in the street. So it's Mass DOT to approve or not approve.
Okay, if that's the truth, and that Mass DOT will regulate that, and we're not gonna have a flood, then I will be an aye.
Okay, so we
Everybody
have,
on pins and needles.
we have Bill's an aye, Anthony's an aye, Amy's an aye, and Carrie's an aye. So with that, the site plan has been approved, and I think that is it in terms of this hearing. So thank you for your presentation and patience and all your hard work for everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Right,
All right, thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
yeah.
Good night.
And Millie's back. Okay, so also for the purpose of the minutes, Millie's rejoining the meeting at 8:22. Okay, next on the agenda, our planning board committee appointments. So we need to sort this out. We have, let's see. We have open space, CMRPC, CPC. What else do we have? No more groundwater,
Design review,
design review. What am I missing? Those are the stuff.
CMRPC,
CMRPC, I got that. Open space,
MPIC.
PIC. That everybody?
Traffic study committee or traffic committee?
Traffic safety.
Did you already say CPC?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Is historical or no? No, we don't have someone.
Oh, don't we? Oh, no, Millie, you're just on
No.
that separate.
Yep.
That's just for fun.
Okay,
And I heard we actually have to find someone for what is the other one? Has to do with ground earthworks. I heard Chris step down DeSantis
okay,
on the
so.
earthworks board.
Okay,
So we either have to appoint one of us or find someone from the outside. We could double check, but I read that he resigned.
and who's our finance? Oh, we appointed John Ray. Is that right?
Yeah, John Ray
Yes.
for financial planning.
Yep.
All right. So sticking with the ones, what people are currently on now, is there anyone who wants to keep their current appointment or any current appointments that anybody's enjoying and would like to keep?
I would love to keep CPC, but if somebody else wants it, that's fine with me, but I do love it.
Okay. Bill, how about you?
I'd like to keep traffic safety.
Okay. Amy, how about you?
I'd like to keep MPIC. If anybody wants design review, they can go for it. But I'll keep it if nobody wants it too, because we're just finishing the checklist, but if someone wants to try it, that's fine too.
Okay, Anthony, are you smiling because you want to give it a try?
Nope.
Okay. Anthony, anything you are partial to?
I like open space.
Okay. Well, that puts me back in CMRPC, which I no longer can really do well because I travel so much, so I miss a lot of their stuff. So if I'm in the spot, I'm sort of a warm body in the spot, and I don't know if anybody else could make better use of it if you were really interested in it or wanted to
How
go to the.
often do they meet?
There's there are quarterly meetings and then there's an annual meeting. And then if you choose to do like a committee, you can do a committee. It has been hybrid. The annual meeting has been hybrid. The quarterly meetings they've allowed for a remote option for quite some time now, so I anticipate it would stay that way. It's really great in terms of like, and in fact, Bill, not to try to sell you on it, but in the traffic and safety capacity that you're in, it might be great to like make some of those contacts, like in the, you probably know all about it in general, but Sujatha, yeah. So that may
Yeah,
not be
I'll do
bad.
CMRPC.
Okay.
All right, Bill. Nice.
Well, seeing as how I just finished another committee, I got time.
What, when finished?
Ability.
Town hall feasibility. Gave the final report yesterday.
Oh,
I was going to go through that in the subcommittee update.
all righty.
Well, I would have no committees, which is fine
You
with
want-
me.
Do you want MPIC? You can have it if you want. But if you want no committees because you're super busy, that's fine too.
It's not that, it's just traveling makes it hard to get. Is MPIC in person? Because that's harder if I'm gone, I can't go to it.
Well,
It's pretty regular.
yeah, it's once a month. It's in person, but they're trying to make it a hybrid.
Lori, is that your committee? Do you think that'll
It
happen?
is. Yeah, I mean, I've been trying, right now they're doing like updates to the various recommendations. They've been talking about stepping away from downtown revitalization. However, I did get them to commit if we get the grant for the wayfinding and branding, then they are going to be working with the consultants to develop the program. So that's one project that's coming down the pike.
Are there
Um,
resident seats left too? Like if I gave it up, could I go for a resident seat? Because I'd hate not to follow it through, but I would give it to
Amy,
Terry.
I don't have to have a committee.
But I feel bad not giving you one.
I don't feel
But
bad.
I
not-
think
No, I think she's fine.
I think we had one or two
That is the
resident
committee.
seats open.
Well, what if you are, I can just attend these if I want. Could I shadow you and then,
Sure.
okay.
Or if we want a resident seat too, we can. Oh, then we'd have 3 planning board members on it.
Who else is on, who's on it?
Millie,
But not from planning board.
You're historical,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
yeah. And I guess we would be a quorum.
Okay. So,
Maybe watch it, see if you want it. And if you want it, I can give it up.
okay, why don't I do that?
Yep.
All right. Is that it for our committees? I mean, one thing that I don't know if any of us are interested in earthworks. I think that's usually we appoint that out to somebody a little more. I don't know, I think we've tried to find someone with a little bit of experience, and if anybody wants it, I mean, that's fine too, but in the past, we've always looked externally. Is anybody interested in earthworks internally?
I think Chris was a civil engineer, so if they could find another one. If he's gone, we should double check, but I want to think I read and heard that.
Okay, so we need to double check if Chris is still here. It's too bad he didn't come back around and let us know. Usually we're notified. Okay,
Usually
so
the select board office does notify me if there's a vacancy. And I
okay.
haven't heard anything.
All right, so let's not appoint anybody there anyway, because we don't have a confirmation, so that would be too bad to do that. So we have Anthony in the open space spot, Bill, CMRPC, Millie, CPC, Amy Design Review and MPIC, and then Bill, Traffic and Safety. Is that a wrap?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see, minutes for approval from May 21st and June 4th. Did everyone have a chance to look at the minutes from May 21st?
I was away.
Okay.
Would you mind bumping them? I wouldn't mind reading them.
Okay, sure. Then, June 4th, did everyone have a chance to read the June 4th minutes?
June 4th. You read those. I
No.
don't had any, no, they were so short. Good Lord.
I didn't read those either.
Okay, all right, so we'll table those two
Nope.
sets of minutes. They're super quick, by the way, the June 4th ones too.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't take too long. Okay. So we have those minutes, and then we have our next planning board meetings are July 16th and August 6th. We have ZBA on the 23rd. Anything coming to the ZBA, Laurie?
No, in fact, we had nothing on the docket for June, so that meeting is canceled. And we haven't received anything yet for July.
Okay, and then MPIC is July 18th. All right, if there's no other business before the board, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Second,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor, Millie,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
and Carrie's an aye. All right, meeting adjourned.
Good
Have a
night.
everyone.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.
Everybody.
Stay
Bye,
cool.
everyone.